Before we begin the open mic, I would like to make a brief dedication to a very special poet and activist, the fabulous Billy Duncan. Billy, this reading is for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Fran. So I'm going to do something a bit different for this round of open mic. I'm going to read a poem. We generally have a one per customer rule here, and it doesn't have to be a poem that you've written. It could be one that you just love that somebody else wrote, and that's the case here today. We here at Public Poetry have been running a little social media campaign called Voter Literacy. We've been putting out information on how to vote, how to make sure you're registered, little reminders of key important dates. So here's a friendly reminder. If you are not registered to vote, or if maybe you had a change of address, your deadline to make sure all those things are in order is Monday, this Monday. And like Erin said, you may need to make a plan to vote. It's not always easy everywhere for everybody. So that's a thing to bear in mind. And we'll be putting out more information in the coming weeks as well. So I hope you all will get out there and vote. This poem I chose is related to the 19th Amendment of the US Constitution, which turned 100 years old this year. This amendment was initially written to grant women the right to vote, and if you look at the history, you'll see that didn't quite grant all the women the right to vote, but it was a start. And a lot of efforts have gone in to ensuring everyone has the right to vote here. So I'll stop chit-chatting about it. There is an epigraph, so I'll read that first. This poem is called One Vote by Aimé Nézhuku-Matil. After reading a letter from his mother, Harry T. Byrne cast the deciding vote to ratify the 19th Amendment of the US Constitution. My parents are from countries where mangoes grow wild and bold, and eagles cry the sky in arcs and dips. America loved this bird too, and made it clutch olives and arrows. Some think if an eaglet falls, the mother will swoop down and catch it. It won't. The eagle must fly on its own accord by testing the air slide of each pin feather. Even in a letter of wind, a mother holds so much power. After the pipping of the egg, after the branching, an eagle is on its own, must make the choice on its own, no matter what it has been taught. Some forget that pound for pound, eagle feathers are stronger than an airplane wing. And even one letter, one vote, can make the difference for every bright thing. Again, that's One Vote by Aimé Nézhuku-Matil, and we encourage you all to get out and vote in this election safely. So, for the rest of open mic, I am making a list, because I always need a list. Next up, I'd like to have Kendra, followed by Stuart and Rebecca. And yes, Billy Duncan will read. If I could ask Billy to wait to be our finale, that would be awesome, if you don't mind, Billy. So like I said, next up is Kendra ready? And Brian, it's not too late. I've got you. The list will continue. Before we finish the open mic, yeah, just raise your hand or say something in the chat. So let's see if Kendra Leonard is ready.
I am. Thanks for unmuting me. What a wonderful reading this is. So my poem is called The Witch's House, which I thought might be nice for October. Wisteria makes the witch's house and that of their familiars and the summoned and entangles magic natural and celestial and domestic. In the witch's house, the baby is raised by crows who caw and coo and talk to her all day long. In the witch's house, the kittens have extra fangs and they drink the milk of countless grown familiars and sleep in the embers of the fire. In the witch's house, the night hags sing lullabies and rock the baby's cradle, guarding her slumberland with knives and salt. In the witch's house, lilac hens cook vegetarian breakfasts and take naps on ruffled beds floating in a lake. In the witch's house, the baby plays in a stupa built by ants and miniature elephants, watched over by a dryad. The wisteria wraps everyone up to shelter them from the too hot days. At night, it unwinds to let the house take its fill of star-flavored air while the moon dandles the baby on its knee. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Stuart ready?
Yes. Let's see. Okay, yes. Hi. Thank you. Thank you to all the poets reading. Good to be here. Good to see all of you. I'd like to read a Robert Frost poem from his first collection, which is called A Boy's Will. And the poem is called Mowing. There was never a sound beside the wood but one, and that was my long scythe whispering to the ground. What was it whispered? I knew not well myself. Perhaps it was something about the heat of the sun, something perhaps about the lack of sound, and that was why it whispered and did not speak. It was no dream of the gift of idle hours, or easy gold at the hand of fay or elf. Anything more than the truth would have seemed too weak to the earnest love that laid the swale in rows, not without feeble pointed spikes of flowers, pale orchises, and scared a bright green snake. The fact is the sweetest dream that labor knows. My long scythe whispered and left the hay to make. Thank you.
Thank you. If Rebecca's ready, we'll have her up next, followed by Wafa, Susan, and Pravadri. You ready, Rebecca? Hey, Rebecca, you ready? Are you muted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't realize my headset wasn't on. Okay, so this poem is a new one. It's called In the Bulrushes, and if you're not familiar, that's taken from the story of Moses. And this is a retelling. I turned away from you, nestled in your vessel, knowing as I climbed to the bank that the commonplace was a stone's throw away. Only once, and I awoke at midnight and knew that I'd conceived you. Only one night, in the light of a single lamp, and then he was gone, shipped out for some war. There is no place in the temple for a woman like me, shamed and shameless, no hope of a name for you. The swollen river danced in the evening as I laid you, lullaby somnambulant, in the little boat of reeds I'd woven. How carefully I'd cut each green stalk in morning light, full of prayers to the waters. Nothing kept watch on the lonely bank. It was as if the world had turned its face from a spoiled woman. My tears might drown creation, and still my will would soar above the deluge, certain that the river knew how far to take you downstream, where your mother would reel in my singular hope. Thank you.
Thank you. That's lovely. Is Wafa ready?
Hi. Can y'all hear me? I don't know if you can. Okay. So I'm gonna read a poem of mine. It's called Filthy Dishes. I will say trigger warning. It does deal with incest. So yeah. Filthy dishes. I hear sounds of water gushing from my kitchen. I'm startled. I find my father holding a filthy plate, forcing the sponge on its edges. Water is running, aggressively spilling, clouding my pretty pink counters. I didn't want this, but it didn't matter to him. Say thank you, he says, and I do. I wait for him to finish. I clean my kitchen counters that he did dirty. I jump back in my bed, force myself to sleep for another day in the kitchen, another night cleaning his cum. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Susan Ellis, and followed by Pravadri, Jillian, and Brian.
How about now?
There you are.
Okay. This is obviously about COVID, but it's trying to keep the humor in every day. So, virus villanelle. Breathe out, brace yourself, then slowly breathe in. Each breath has its dangers, of that you're aware. You won't live in fear, you won't let it win. This novel virus separates you from kin. Each passing day makes it harder to bear. Breathe out, brace yourself, then slowly breathe in. Stock up on TP, sanitizer, and gin. We all have a face mask ready to wear. The fridge and freezer are packed to the brim. Plant some seeds, pull some weeds, empty the bin. Curl up, binge Netflix from your comfiest chair. Breathe out, brace yourself, then slowly breathe in. Organize your spices, line up each tin. Whatever you do, don't cut your hair. But then again, maybe just a wee trim. Isolation begins to get under your skin. Count your blessings, don't give in to despair. Breathe out, brace yourself, then slowly breathe in. Breathe out, brace yourself, then slowly breathe in.
Thank you. Pravadri, are you ready? We don't have video yet. There.
Hello, everybody. When I was in class 5.
We're having problems hearing you.
Am I now audible?
Yes.
Oh, that's better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I named it a friendly ghost, and actually the topic that was given from our school to write was that you met a ghost, but we're not scared of that ghost. So I decided for writing a poem, as I always love to write poems. So once I met a friendly ghost sitting up on the chimney. His clothes were torn, and he wailed and mourned. He had bulging white eyes, which were not worth a sight. So I decided to ask him, why was he so slim? He never answered. He cried and cried. He was not a thing that could arouse fright, but he was terribly white. After some time, when I fed him lime, he answered, "Hi, my name is Geraldine." He offered me a piece of cheesecake and claimed that it was his own bake. I laughed at his lies, but then I saw tears in his eyes. "Please forgive me," I said. "Please come to my house, eat, and go to bed." "I am a ghost, a friendly one," said he. "We will be friends from now on for the world to see." Thank you.
Thank you. So next up, we'll have Jillian. And if anyone else would like to read, please let us know.
Hi. This is a sonnet I just wrote. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Apparition. I'm going to try and remember what I'm here to do with this life, in this body and mind complexion. And if I can't, let me at least write a collection of poetry, the craft of observation, the dew on a leaf's skin, or the ambient hue of evening sky. Using words, the weight of concrete to prove reality, and these days reality needs proving. Like a shadowy dog, a shape-shifting fog in my mind's eye. So we sit outside, she out of sight, but never out of mind on the grass, which carpets our ephemera. Grief is an appetizer for this light, a transformation like an unstable gas. I can't see anything inside this camera.
Thank you, bravo.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll have Brian Beard, and we will finish it off with the fabulous Billy Duncan. Brian, are you ready?
Yes. Awesome, thank you. This is called Tools. I followed you through the glass doors, down the fluorescently lit aisles, growing smaller with every step. I didn't ask to come to the hardware store, but neither did I ask to be born. You reached into the bins, sure of what you needed. I carried your jangly metal things, your screws and handles, your latches and brackets, your voodoo in a brown paper sack. You spoke to the locals in a language I did not know. When they didn't give you a deal on lumber you insisted you were owed, you asked to see a manager, threatened to make a scene. When I complained, trying very hard not to sound whiny, you told me I was too sensitive, that I should relax, that the customer is always right. Back home, I held the measuring tape for you, the marking chalk, the wood itself, while you made the circular saw scream out in lamentation for the grinding up of ancestor bones, and you grunted and sighed, desperate to make whatever you wanted to make of your life, to fix whatever you wanted to fix in our home. My blood sugar low, the cartoons over, the daily horrors having already begun to dribble out of the grim mouth of the nightly news host in the other room, I considered walking out into the darkening street and not returning. Even at 6 years old, I favored the simplest and most elegant solution. Even then, I had no trouble believing I could make it on my own. You handed me a screwdriver and offered me a test disguised as a tutorial. Of course, I failed miserably. You're just not good with tools, you concluded. But it's not true that I'm not good with tools, Dad. These words are tools with which I'm making you this casket. Thank you.
Bravo, and thank you. All right, to finish off our open mic, we have a very special guest. If you have shown up to poetry events in Houston, you probably know Billy Duncan. This fabulous poet recently celebrated an important birthday, so without further ado, please welcome Billy Duncan.
Hi, how is everybody today? And thank you for the lovely introduction. And Fran, thank you for being so supportive and wonderful and honoring me this way. You are a true friend and I love you. I'm going to do a poem from my new book, Requiem for the Plastic Clown, which drops in a couple of weeks on October 16th. And you can get it, it's up for pre-sale on a Weasel Press website if you want to buy it ahead of time. Anyway, this is the first poem in the book, which is dedicated to Al Pennison, the Plastic Clown. And this is a poem I wrote to him while he was still alive, and it's called Cotton Candy. There is something elegantly hidden in the scribbles of a clown. Perhaps the white page is makeup, and beneath the printed words, there's another face, a different story. Most children laugh at his silly hair, ridiculous shoes, incessantly honking horn. Others cringe in fear, fear like drowning in a dream or hearing foggy footfalls. It is all pretense, he says, all theater, all application of nonsense. No real harm. But when you creep to the edge of the muddy field, pull up the hem of the tent near the creaking stake, peek inside his dressing room, you see him disrobe, towel off his face, and see another clown. His diary lies on the table. Should you risk your life? Try to find his other layers in the words he wrote in solitude? Or should you play it safe and take the coins your grandpa gave you? Buy one more cotton candy, a massive pink pile bigger than your head that dissipates to die in sticky threads against the tininess of your warm and silent tongue. Thank you.